first. And then there's a lot of questions around rooftops, a lot of questions around how do you set up a roof? Does it make sense to have a rooftop in your house and things like that? So lots of very, very interesting questions, and maybe I'll speak for 5-10 minutes and address that. But let me maybe ask some of the panelists questions that pertain to them and get those answered first. So there's a question, Dr. Sun, for you around what is the comparison of price of solar panels? Maybe the question sounds like it's more related to cost of manufacturing between India, China, Europe, and US. And then the follow-on question being, India spends $60 billion for importing oil per year. Can we just import $60 billion of solar panels and flood the country with solar? The last part of it, obviously, I added to it. So what is your cost comparison between these countries? What would you say to that?
Okay, can you hear me? Okay. Price defined from the market. The cost really depends on how your company be innovative, the operation excellence, and of course your efficiency of the share and margin. And last but least is also the economy scale of your capacity. So this is the price always changes. So Europe and US and Japan and India and China too. So honest, the price in India always lowest. So that is the situation. And but because the sound deviation here is very almost the best. So normally the price, average price, ASP, global ASP, this concept, and the investment in India, India do together. And cost, from cost point of view, the China solar is always one because of we have vertically integrated packaging from India to the module. And the second is also innovation because we have higher efficiency from cell module. So and also our economy scale, so 2.4 gigawatt. So this is the cost, and our cost is very transparent. Already every quarter reported in the New York Stock report. So the price comparison currently maybe US is the highest price, and the EU because of the state debts, the currency, the euro and the USA is currency change, and the euro becomes weak. So this currently Europe is also very weak. The prices are low, and still I think the Indian is the lowest price from at least from abroad. Right? So a domestic module price, I guess, it must be high if they want to get a sustainable development. So exactly I can't give the price because always change. The second one is your question is whether all imported from China.
I think it's a general comment about the country spends tens of billions of dollars on importing oil. Can we not import solar panels? There was another question. It sounded more like.
Oh, that's also okay. That's very interesting. Once I was in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, they're banning the crude oil to generate electricity, and they have a lot of problems. Actually, big subsidy. So we have a calculation discussion. If the oil price, $75 per barrel. So generate the electricity by banning crude oil, compared to the solar plus storage. Right? The solar plus storage is cheaper than banning the crude But current crude oil price at least $100 per barrel. So that may be very interesting question to calculate. It depends on whether you ban the oil to generate electricity. But I don't think in India you ban crude oil to generate electricity. You ban the natural gas or coal, right? So compared to coal, the price in India would be not that cheap. So that's a very good question. But I don't believe that they will import all of Canada. That is not a good idea. And then maybe a good idea is the foreign big player, together with team up with local module player, to try to find the best combination to lower the cost. Right? The supply chain, big supply chain is always playing role. Okay. Maybe you have something to comment.
So there's a question for Colin. Mr. Colin, there's a question about comparison between thin film and crystalline. Which one produces more electricity, especially specifically about triple junction thin film.
Really, the question is which one makes more electricity. There's many different aspects, right? One is the efficiency of the plant. So if you go strictly from the module size versus more electricity, crystalline produces more electricity, right? Because your 1 megawatt crystalline, let's say you're spreading over 4.5 acres. Thin film will take 7 or 8 acres, even more if it's a single dimension, 6% efficiency. So if you normalize it for the size, then they should produce the same amount of electricity. But thin film can produce more electricity during, let's say, the diffused sunlight, right? That's been an advantage that has been sold by the developers and writer. But the important question is about backup, right? You're putting in, let's say, 8 crores or 10 crores per megawatt and you're putting up a farm. You need to be generating power for the next 20, 25 years reliably to get the returns. So some of the thin film technologies have not been around for that long, have not been tested for that long to be sure. And so there's an element of risk in the thin film for sure. Then the last element is obviously the cost. So we have a landscape, we have some case to all that. But it is purely, the question is fundamentally how much electricity per day. Then there are some areas where the thin film has shown a slightly higher yield. But there's also true that some of the wattages are playing down to do that, right? If you rate a panel for 2 or 3 wattage lower, you will get more power than what it is rated for. And some of the thin film players do that just to show that there's a slightly higher advantage and to get their projects back.
Please, Father.
Yeah, just to add to that point, there's also a question of bankruptcy of the middle supplier. Some of the companies have already gone bankrupt. I've also, for example, they already filed for bankruptcy. So, as a developer, when someone sells a module, that fact also needs to be considered. What if the loan is there around to honor the warranty? That's next.
So there are a lot of questions about rooftops, both commercial and residential. So I'll just make some comments about residential. There are questions about, can we build a solar plant in our house? How many of you have credit cards? Can you raise your hands? Okay. I think most of you. Some of you are just either lazy or shy to raise your hands. So, individuals can get financing, which is usually a big problem for solar because it's a capital, and why should you be spending money on capital when the electricity board gives you electricity? The issue is, I think it's just a question of time, maybe a few years. I think Dr. Sun mentioned 2018 for grid parity. Grid parity is a ballpark estimate, and somewhat abused word as well. The thing is, it really depends on what is the exact tariff you have for yourself. in whatever region you're in, and different locations have different power structure cost. Tariff is very different. Mumbai is very high, different than Delhi, and Delhi is very different than Chennai. So, if you can generate electricity cheaper than what you pay to the utility, which is going to happen very soon, not in some 10 years later, maybe not even 5 years later, somewhere between a couple of years. But MNRE, which is the National Ministry for New and Renewable Energy, has a capital subsidy of 30%. If you add that today, you may be already at grid parity for commercial rooftops or thereabouts. What is important that I mentioned earlier as well is if you set up a solar project on top of your rooftop and the price is determined today, it stays the same price for the next 40 years. Although the buildings may not last for 40 years, or you might get, I'd love to hear the thoughts of my panelists, but it's our belief that solar projects will last for 30, 40 years. There's nothing that can go wrong. The power electronics may have to be refurbished. Think of them as operational issues, but the plant should last for 40 years. But you cannot say that, so a solar project that you set up today, and let's say the cost of tariff is 7 rupees per unit of electricity. It's going to stay that for 30, 40 years without a problem. Whereas you cannot say the same thing about the utilities price. It may be 5 rupees today, and if the energy regulator do their job every year and adjust the energy prices to ensure that the distribution companies are not making huge losses, it's going to keep going up and up. And in the meantime, you have the issues that Mr. Krishnan talked about earlier this morning, where coal has become a huge problem. Imported coal is many times more expensive than domestic coal, which is subsidized. And the electricity is subsidized because the distribution companies make huge losses. And they cannot even supply enough. As a result, a lot of diesel is being used in the industrial and commercial sector. So there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that solar electricity will be a big solution. Every rooftop in the country can get converted to solar, provided the industry and people such as yourself take up the challenge. There seem to be a lot of entrepreneurs. Some people have asked me whether there is a role for marketing and consumer groups to play a role in rooftops. Absolutely. There is a lot of room for installers. A lot of small electricians of today can graduate into becoming solar rooftop installers. There is distribution companies that can be set up. There is operations and maintenance companies. There is marketing companies that can become channel to generate. The endeavor to make every rooftop solar is massive. It generates huge employment. I think there was some study by University of California, Berkeley, where they show that for every megawatt hour of electricity, the maximum number of jobs are created by distributed solar. Just because of all of this that I talked about, you need so many people to go and knock on somebody's door and say, do you want solar? Your HDFC bank that is can finance your solar rooftop just like they give you a credit card. I mean, if a bank can give you a credit card, why can't they finance? It'll develop. I think the ecosystem will get created. Everybody is going to have opportunity to do financing, marketing, channel, distribution, installation, operations, maintenance, billing services. We're going to see all of that. And it all is beginning right now. There's been a lot of inquiry in Tamil Nadu about commercial rooftops because of two reasons. There is excessive amount of diesel usage, especially in industrial areas like Erode and Coimbatore. So the industrialists want to use their rooftop space and generate some amount of solar. Solar is not a solution for your entire need, which also there are some questions about, can we do off-grid? Yes, but off-grid will require storage, and it does make it expensive. You don't have to do that. You use solar for 5, 10%, 15% of your needs. The catch though is there was another question about what happens if the grid is not functioning. Can solar solve the problem? It can only if you have a solar with storage. It needs to be be an off-grid system that can take over, because otherwise the solar cannot follow the load, given that it's really dependent on the light conditions. Similarly, somebody asked the question whether what happens when there is cloud. So in summary, I think residential solar will happen in a big way. Policy is important. Policy is important, frankly, only for a few more years. If the government bureaucracy and the policymakers don't do the needful now, doesn't matter. Economics will take over, and in a couple of years, India is such a capitalist country that the entrepreneurs will figure out how to develop, sell, service, and support and finance solar rooftops for commercial customers, industrial customers, residential users. In just a matter of a couple of years, it's going to happen. So I think that's sort of my broad summary on what will happen to rooftop sector and opportunities. There seems to be a lot of people interested in learning about solar. Looks like there are many students as well in the audience. So maybe Dr. Roy, if you can comment on what resources are available in India for people to learn about solar, which is a new field. Can you comment?
We have formed a NCPRE center. That is actually they conduct some workshops in periodic fashion, and they cover all areas of the solar, including manufacturing and also the system design and then balance of systems and all these power plant executions and all. So probably they can go to the site, directly on the site, NCPRE, they have this thing, and they conduct in 80 places, including Chennai, Hyderabad, Jaipur, Bombay, and places. So this is one avenue only people can pick up and try that. Another thing is that actually many companies like us, we also offer internship programs. Internship programs to people in the final year of their intakes or BTechs, you can apply to us and you can probably have some. Not only we, many people do that. So you can also get some real exposure. Apart from that, of course, there are so many workshops happens with EAI as well as some other organizers also, including